Welcome to the Deep Dive. We all eat every single day, right? Whether it's grabbing a quick lunch, that essential morning coffee, or celebrating with a dinner out, food services are just woven into our daily lives. But have you ever stopped to think about the sheer scale of it all?
Yeah.
The economics behind this global industry. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the global food services market. We'll trace its trends, look at forecasts all the way out to 2033, and our insights, they come directly from a really detailed analysis by Cognitive Market Research. So a solid source for this. Our mission here is basically to unpack this huge market. We want to highlight the growth, figure out the key drivers, and see which regions, which countries are really making waves in this multi-trillion-dollar sector. You're essentially getting a shortcut to understanding the forces shaping how and where we eat globally. So yeah, let's unpack this, get ready for some pretty fascinating numbers and maybe some surprising regional stories.
Absolutely. And what's really interesting, I think, is looking beyond just the size, massive as it is, it's about understanding why it's changing. Things like how our tastes are evolving, the huge impact of urbanization,
Right.
and just this growing culture of dining out or ordering in that you see pretty much everywhere now.
That's a perfect starting point. So let's zoom out first.
Yeah.
The big picture. You said massive,
Yeah.
colossal. How big are we actually talking?
We are indeed. According to that cognitive market research data, the global market was valued at an astounding $2.94 trillion
Wow.
back in 2021.
Okay, nearly $3 trillion, just as a baseline. Incredible.
Good.
And where's it headed?
Well, it kept growing, hitting roughly $3.29 trillion in 2025.
Right.
And the projections, they show it reaching over $4.12 trillion by 2033,
Okay.
which gives us a compound annual growth rate, CAGR, of almost 2.9%.
So steady growth.
Resilient.
Exactly. It shows that eating outside the home, in whatever form, is just becoming more and more central to the global economy. Okay, so if that's the global pace, nearly 2.9%, where's the real action happening regionally? You hinted things get interesting there. Let's maybe start with Asia Pacific. That seems to be where some of the most dynamic growth is.
You're absolutely right to start there. Asia Pacific is, well, it's a powerhouse in this sector. If you look at the numbers, its growth is really robust. It went from about $552 billion in 2021 to over $628 billion by 2025. And the forecast, an impressive $864.6 billion by 2033.
Okay, and that growth rate?
That's a CAGR of over 4%. So yeah, significantly higher than the global average you mentioned.
Over 4%. That really does tell a story.
Yeah.
So who are the main players driving that within APAC, China, Japan?
Definitely. China remains a dominant force. Its revenues climbed from around $166.3 billion in 2021,
Right.
projected to hit almost $245 billion by 2033. And Japan also showing substantial growth, moving from about $115 billion to $167 billion in that same time frame.
Okay, big numbers from the big players. But I feel like I've heard buzz about some other countries in that region having even faster rates of growth, maybe smaller bases, but growing quicker.
That's a really important question, actually, because it highlights what's driving expansion in specific pockets, Take India. It's a prime example. It shows the highest EAGR in the region, over 5.18%.
Wow, over 5%.
Yeah. Revenues projected to grow from roughly $75 billion back in 21 to over $133 billion by 33.
And what's behind that surge?
Well, it's largely things like a growing middle class, really rapid urbanization, and just more people embracing dining out and, crucially, food delivery. And then maybe even more notably, you have Singapore.
Okay.
Much smaller market overall, obviously, but its CAGR is even higher, nearly 5.5%.
That's incredible.
It jumps from about $21 billion to $37 billion. Reflects, high disposable incomes, a very tech-savvy population that loves convenience.
Amazing. So India and Singapore really standing out for growth rate. Any other significant contributors we should mention in APAC?
Oh, sure. South Korea is also expanding steadily, about $42 billion, up to near $57 billion. And you also see consistent contributions from Australia, the wider Southeast Asia region, Taiwan. They all play a part in this.
Fascinating stuff in Asia Pacific. Let's shift continents now. How about South America? I understand there's some strong momentum there, too.
There is, yeah. The South American market is showing a pretty healthy growth trajectory. It grew from about $202.6 billion in 2021, and the forecast sees it reaching $313.2 billion by 2033.
And the growth rate there?
The CAGR is nearly 3.9%.
Okay, so also above the global average.
Right. It reflects a continent where, again, you've got a rising middle class, changing lifestyles, and more embrace of eating out.
And who are the leaders down there? Brazil usually comes up in these discussions.
Brazil definitely leads the continent, yeah. Its revenues are moving from around $72.5 billion up to a projected $108.8 billion. But it's not just Brazil. Argentina and Colombia are also showing really significant growth.
Interesting.
Yeah, Argentina's set to rise from about $27 billion to over $44 billion. And Colombia from $17 billion to around $28 billion.
So it's quite widespread growth across the continent then.
It indicates a broader regional trend, absolutely. More consumer spending power going towards food services.
Right. Now let's bring it closer to home for probably many of our listeners. North America. It's the largest market overall, right? What's the growth picture look like there?
It is, yes. North America holds the title for the largest regional market. It was valued at roughly $1.17 trillion back in 2021.
Trillion, yeah. Huge.
And it's expected to reach nearly $1.59 trillion by 2033. The CAGR there is around 2.5%.
Okay, so 2.5%, steady, solid growth, but maybe not as explosive as, say, parts of Asia.
Exactly. It reflects a more mature market, but one that still innovates and adapts. That size means even 2.5% growth is a massive dollar increase.
Good point. And within North America, I mean, the U.S. is the elephant in the room, correct?
Absolutely, no question. The United States completely dominates the region. Revenues were about $925 billion in 2021. Projected to hit over $1.23 trillion by 2033.
Okay. What about Canada and Mexico?
Well, it's important not to overlook them. Canada actually shows a pretty notable CAGR, over 3.3%.
Oh, higher than the U.S. rate then.
Yeah, slightly higher rate. It's expanding from around $139 billion to $205 billion. And Mexico also shows consistent growth, moving from about $108 billion to $154 billion.
So even in this mature market, there's still plenty of growth and innovation happening.
Definitely. Things like delivery platforms are huge, ghost kitchens, all sorts of diverse dining experiences keep driving it forward.
Okay. Let's hop across the Atlantic now. Europe. What's the food services scene like there?
Europe's another major market, of course, valued at around $848.6 billion in 2021, and it's projected to reach about $1.15 trillion by 2033. The CAGR is similar to North America's, actually, nearly 2.5%.
Consistent, steady expansion then.
That's right, driven by, very diverse food cultures and a strong tradition of dining out across the continent.
And which countries are making the biggest waves in Europe? Germany, UK, France.
Those are the big ones, yeah. Germany shows significant growth, moving from about $145 billion to $184 billion. The UK also strong, increasing from roughly $115 billion to $144.5 billion. But what's kind of interesting here is France.
Oh, yeah.
Its CAGR is stronger, nearly 4%, expanding from about $83 billion to nearly $128 billion. Suggests a particularly vibrant dining scene and consumer engagement there.
Almost 4% for France. That's notable. Beyond those three, any other key players in Europe?
Yep. Italy is significant, growing from about $63 billion to over $90 billion.
Right.
And Russia from $110 billion up to $140 billion. You've also got smaller but, consistent markets like Spain, Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, Luxembourg. They all contribute.
Right.
And maybe one more point, the category cognitive market research calls rest of Europe, so encompassing lots of other countries. That actually expanded quite robustly, a KGR over 3.6%. Growing from $188 billion to $288 billion.
Okay, so broad-based growth across Europe, too, even outside the very largest economy.
Exactly. It points to pretty widespread growth across the continent.
All right, finally, let's round out our world tour with Africa and the Middle East. How do these markets compare?
Okay, so the African food services market, it was valued around $53 billion in 2021, and it's projected to reach about $79 billion by 2033. Interestingly, its CAGR is nearly 2.9%.
Oh, right around the global average then.
Exactly. Mirroring the global average.
Yeah.
Reflects, growing urbanization, a young population.
And who's leading in Africa? Nigeria, South Africa.
Those are the main ones highlighted, yes. Nigeria growing from about $11 billion to almost $16 billion. South Africa increasing from roughly $20 billion to new $29 billion. And the rest of Africa category also shows promising growth.
Okay. And the Middle East.
Yeah.
Often seen as having a distinct dining culture.
It does. The Middle East market recorded about $108.6 billion in 2021. It's expected to reach roughly $132 billion by 2033. But the growth rate is a bit slower here, a CAGR around 1.4%.
Okay. Noticeably slower than other regions we've discussed.
Yeah. Saudi Arabia leads the region, about $42.5 billion, going up to $50 billion. The UAE showed sort of moderate acceleration, moving from about $11.7 billion to $15.5 billion.
So still growing, but maybe more mature segments or different consumption patterns at play.
That seems likely, yes. Slower overall growth compared to some of the more rapidly emerging markets we talked about.
Okay, wow. We've covered a lot of ground, huge numbers, fascinating regional differences. So let's try to connect the dots. What does this all mean for us as consumers, for the industry? What are the big takeaways here?
Yeah, it raises that key question, right? Why is this market growing so consistently, but also so dynamically across all these diverse places? And as the source material highlights, it's not just, simply more people eating out.
Right.
It seems fundamentally driven by, well, first, evolving consumer preferences. People want convenience. They want variety, unique experiences.
Makes sense.
Second, that rapid urbanization we mentioned, it just concentrates people in cities where food services are often the easiest option. And third, just the overall surge in dining out culture, which is really amplified now by delivery platforms and technology that keeps opening up new opportunities.
So it's a combination of societal shifts and tech innovation.
Pretty much. If you connect it to the bigger picture, it suggests an industry that's just incredibly adaptable. It's responsive to how we live, and it keeps finding new ways to meet our demand for food outside the home.
It really does paint a picture of a dynamic industry constantly reinventing itself, adapting. Well, what a deep dive that was into the global food services market. It's clear this industry isn't just massive, it's incredibly vibrant, it's always evolving, and just full of these fascinating regional stories. We've seen everything from, the giants like the US and China to that explosive growth in places like India and Singapore.
And it's all driven by these really fundamental changes in how we live, how we eat, how we interact with food. And just to reiterate, all these insights, they're grounded in that robust data and analysis from cognitive market research. I think the big takeaway is just that this industry isn't slowing down, it's transforming, really, driven by demographics, tech, and our own changing behaviors.
So next time you're looking forward to that meal out or maybe clicking order on a delivery app, just take a second to think about the immense interconnected global market humming along behind it all. It really shows how central food is and how fast this industry moves. So let's leave you with this thought. Considering everything we've discussed, urbanization, changing tastes, delivery tech innovations, what do you think will be the next big shift in how people access and experience food services right there in your own city or your country by 2033?
Welcome to the deep dive. We sift through the noise, the reports, the data, and give you a shortcut to really understanding what's going on. Today, we're diving into something that, well, it affects pretty much everyone, every day, maybe without you even realizing it. We're talking about the global food service market. It's this huge dynamic space that's constantly changing how and what we eat. Our source material today, it's some really insightful excerpts from the Evolving Global Food Service Market Report. And this thing is packed. Trends, challenges, all the big innovations shaping this massive industry. So our mission here is to pull out the most important bits, the key takeaways from the report. We want to help you get a handle on not just what's changing in food service, but, why it matters, whether you're prepping for a meeting or maybe you're just curious about where your next burger or salad is actually coming from.
It's definitely a crucial area.
Yeah.
It's this amazing mix, really. Consumer habits, tech, economic shifts. They all collide here. It's like a microcosm of how the world is changing, one plate at a time.
Okay, let's get into it then, because it really does feel like things have just exploded recently. So many new options, new ways to get food. What are the main things driving all this change? Is it one big thing or more like a perfect storm?
It's definitely a combination, a powerful one. The report really points to rising urbanization as a huge factor. More people in cities, lives get faster, busier, and that just creates this enormous appetite for, convenience, convenient food solutions.
Right.
But it's deeper than just quick meals. The report suggests this demand is driving, hyper-specialization and convenience. Even a 5-minute meal might need to be, say, gluten-free or have some kind of gourmet twist.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's not just about saving time anymore, is it? Convenience itself is almost like a luxury good now. And the report mentions this is especially true in those fast-developing economies, places with maybe more dual-income households.
Exactly. They're really pushing the boundaries, almost pioneering new convenience models because the need is so acute there. And it's not just about convenience. There's this whole cultural shift, too. Dining out, it's growing. fueled by rising disposable incomes, sure, but it's become more than just eating. Food is now, a lifestyle
It's an
experience.
experience, right?
People are looking for ambiance, for something personalized. They want experiential dining, think-themed restaurants, or those really nice artisanal coffee shops, even chef-led tasting menus popping up in food courts. It's about the story, the feel.
Okay, and we absolutely have to talk about tech. Digital disruption. The report goes big on this. Things like Uber Eats, DoorDash, all those aggregators, and these cloud kitchens. That's a term I keep hearing. What exactly are they? It's not just a kitchen in the sky, right?
Huh? No, not quite. They're essentially delivery-only kitchens, no storefront, no dine-in area. What's really interesting is how they let food businesses start up with way less cash up front. No need for that expensive high street location or front-of-house staff.
Ah, okay. Lower overheads.
Massively lower overheads.
Yeah.
And they can reach a huge audience through the apps. The report uses this example. A single kitchen space in Mumbai may be running 5 different virtual restaurants.
5 brands from one kitchen.
Yeah. Like one doing biryani, another doing vegan salads, all sharing the same kitchen, same resources, just different brands on the delivery apps. Super efficient. Very responsive to trends.
Wow. And speaking of trends, what about social media? Instagram, TikTok. How much is that shaping things?
Oh, it's huge. The report highlights it clearly. Those visually appealing dishes, the viral food trends, they directly influence menus. Operators feel the pressure to innovate constantly to create stuff that looks good online. It's a real feedback loop. What goes viral gets ordered.
That Instagrammable factor, it's actually driving business decisions.
Absolutely. It's a genuine economic force now, pushing creativity, presentation, all of it.
Okay, so we've got these powerful forces pushing growth, creating opportunities. Urbanization, experience, tech, social media. But where there's rapid change, there's usually pressure too, right? What are the big headaches, the main challenges facing this market?
You're absolutely right. It's definitely not all easy growth. The report is very clear on the challenges. They're pretty significant, actually, systemic even. A major one is just costs going up, operational costs.
Like what specifically?
Well, rent, for starters, utilities, energy prices, wages are a big one too, and the cost of raw ingredients, all squeezing those profit margins.
Yeah, that's a tough balancing act, keeping prices reasonable when your own costs are climbing. And then you mentioned wages. That ties into labor shortages, doesn't it? That seems to be everywhere post-pandemic.
It's a massive issue, finding skilled kitchen staff, servers, and then keeping them. It's incredibly difficult for many places.
And that impacts the customer directly, right? Inconsistent service, maybe shorter opening hours.
Exactly. You can really hurt a business's bottom line and reputation. And it's not just about finding any staff. It's about the rising expectations for better pay, better conditions. It forces tough choices for operators, quality versus cost versus just staying open.
And on top of that, they're dealing with regulations.
Oh, yes. Regulatory complexity is another big one. Food safety laws, labor laws, tax codes. It's like a maze. And the rules can be different everywhere, region by region.
That sounds like a nightmare, especially for smaller businesses. Just keeping up must be exhausting.
It really is. The report points out how just compliance can divert resources away from, improving the food or the customer experience. Non-compliance, that can mean serious fines, even closure.
Okay, so rising costs, labor struggles, complex rules. Anything else?
Supply chain volatility, that's the other big stressor.
Meaning?
Unpredictable events, messing with ingredients, extreme weather hitting crops, geopolitical issues disrupting trade, global inflation, bumping up prices for everything. It makes getting key ingredients consistently and at a stable price really hard. Menu planning and cost control become this constant juggling act.
Wow. It really paints a picture of an industry that has to be incredibly agile, just constantly reacting.
Exactly. It requires immense flexibility, day in, day out. It's like solving a new puzzle every single morning for every kitchen manager.
So, given all that pressure, how are businesses coping? How are they adapting?
Well, the report highlights a couple of key strategies that are really interconnected. First, there's a big push towards sustainability.
Okay. How does that look in practice?
It's driven partly by consumers who are much more environmentally conscious now. So you see restaurants switching to biodegradable packaging, using tech like AI to manage inventory better and cut down food waste, promoting farm-to-table sourcing, and the big chains. They're increasingly aligning with ESG goals.
ESG, right? And environmental, social governance. So they're looking beyond just profits.
Precisely. It's about their impact on the planet, on society, how ethically they operate. It's becoming table stakes, really.
And alongside that, green push.
Health and personalization.
Yeah.
There's just this massive growing demand for healthier options. Gluten-free, vegan, keto, organic.
Hmm.
People expect these to be readily available now, not just niche alternatives.
And personalization goes beyond just diet types.
Yeah, absolutely. The leading brands are getting really smart with data analytics, CRM systems, customer relationship management. They use that data to understand what you specifically like, what you order, and then tailor menus, offers promotions just for you, especially in those fast casual places or the higher-end QSRs.
QSR quick service restaurants, like fancy fast food.
Sort of, yeah. Think places a step up from traditional fast food, often focus on fresher ingredients or specific cuisines. They really leverage data for that personalized touch.
And tech isn't just for tracking orders, is it? It's changing the actual experience inside the restaurant, too.
Definitely. The report details a whole range of tech. AI, helping with ordering, apps for pre-ordering your coffee before you even get there, digital loyalty cards on your phone. Then behind the scenes, you've got kitchen automation tools making things faster, more consistent, plus self-service kiosks, contactless payments everywhere, even virtual assistants helping out.
It sounds like technology is becoming less of an add-on and more fundamental.
It's absolutely integral now, a key competitive tool for efficiency, speed, and just enhancing that whole customer interaction.
So if we zoom out and look at the big players, who's dominating this shifting landscape?
Well, you've got the global giants, the names everyone knows, McDonald's, Domino's, Yum, brands, that's KFC, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, Starbucks. They're all heavily investing in what they call omni-channel capabilities, being seamless across dine-in, drive-through, delivery. They're optimizing delivery like crazy, and also doing those sustainable menu revamps we talked about. They really set the pace.
And then there's a whole other world in institutional catering.
Right. Companies like Compass Group, Aramark, Sodexo. They operate on a massive scale, handling food services for workplaces, hospitals, universities, usually through big long-term contracts. It's a different business model entirely.
It really shows how diverse the market is. It's not just restaurants and cafes.
Not at all. And the report also mentions these diversified verticals. Think Subway, which is run by Doctors Associates, Inc., or Restaurant Brands International. They own Burger King and Tim Hortons. Even 7-Eleven under 7 & I Holdings has a huge food service operation now. It just highlights all the different niches and segments within this broader market.
But the common thread, whether it's a global giant or a specialized player.
A strategic adaptation. That's the key takeaway. They're all using data, forming partnerships, trying out hybrid models, maybe a mix of dine-in and cloud kitchen elements.
Yeah.
Anything to stay scalable, resilient, and meet those ever-changing customer demands. It's really a constant balancing act.
So quite a journey we've taken there. From understanding why things are changing so fast, the urbanization, the focus on experience, the tech revolution, to grappling with the real challenges like costs and labor, and then seeing how the industry is fighting back with sustainability, personalization, and even more tech. It's undeniably a market that's, well, constantly buzzing with energy and change.
It really is. And it's such a clear illustration of how understanding these forces, consumer behavior, technology, economics, is so valuable. You see these big global trends playing out, but also how they get adapted locally, neighborhood by neighborhood. It impacts our daily lives more than we probably think.
So thinking about you listening, the consumer, maybe the person grabbing lunch right now, or even someone dreaming of opening their own food spot, how does all this connect back? Maybe consider your own habits, your own choices. How are these big shifts showing up in your interactions with food service?
And it leaves us with a really interesting question to ponder, doesn't it? Given how fast things are moving, all the innovation, what's next? What do you think the next big disruption will be in how we get our food, how we experience it? Is it going to be even more automation, completely new kinds of food, or maybe something totally unexpected?
It's definitely food for thought. Keep your eyes open, keep observing. These trends are unfolding all around us faster than ever.